All right. Since it's a story based, I want you to quickly, you can complete reading this like less than a minute because it's a story, right? And as usual, we have 10 questions. I'm sure the questions will have some synonyms and antonyms and all of that. So basically, that should take for you less than 2 minutes. And as you read it, you can understand it, right? There are no difficult words blocking your comprehension or anything. So are you guys ready to answer the questions? So let's go. This is the first question that we have. Why did the king distribute seeds to all the children in his kingdom? So we have four options, and then of course we have five, right? So the first option says it was part of one of the rituals of the kingdom. Two, he wanted to see who could grow the tallest plant. Three, he finished all his work in the garden and had extra seeds left. Four, he wanted to inculcate the hobby of gardening among the children or his kingdom. Five, none of these. No, this is more or less like the central theme of the story, right? What is the objective or the intention behind the king distributing seeds? Was it really to see who could grow the tallest plant? Yeah, we could get sidetracked, right? That's not the real objective why he distributed the seeds to all the children. The real reason is he wanted somebody to take over his place, right? Take his throne and rule the kingdom in a just manner. So this was just one of the strategies that he was employing in order to see who would be the right candidate. So the answer is 5, right? None of these. Let's move on. Second question. Why was Pingala holding an empty pot in his hands? Let's look at the options. A, he could not grow the seed the king gave him. B, his plant did not survive after the second month. C, he wanted to be different from the other children. What's the answer for the second question? We obviously know that the passage does not say anywhere that his plant did not survive after the second month. We know that it did not even start growing. He wanted to be different from the other children? Absolutely not. The passage does not support that. So we know it's only A, and that option is option 1. Okay, let's move on. This is an easy one. Like I said, we won't be spending a lot of time. Why did Pingala's father, third question, encourage him to go to the king with an empty pot? So though he was unsuccessful, right, the plant never grew, but why did his father still encourage him? Even though he had an empty pot. Option A, he wanted the king to know that his son tried his best to grow the plant. B, he wanted his son to be noticed by the king. C, he wanted the king to realize that he had cheated his son. So what are the options again for question 3? Again, we have responses. It's a pretty easy one. We know for a fact that it's not B or C. So again, it's only A, which is option 1. Right, let's move on. Fourth question. Which of the following word is most opposite to the word admit, printed in bold in the above story? Okay, so we have reject, deny, dismiss, disclose, and confess. So we have all these 5 words, and we need the antonym of the word admit. Now, let's quickly go back to the passage. So those of you who have access to the PDF, go back to the passage and see where does admit come. Right, it's in towards the end of the passage, right? 1, 2, 3, last but fourth line, towards the end here. So I'm just going to highlight this. So let's read that sentence. I wanted to see which child was the most honest one and would admit he or she would not be able to grow anything. So in the context, what is the meaning that this word admit is saying? If you had to substitute a synonym for this word admit in this context, what word would it be? Accept, right? That's another synonym of the word admit, accept. Now, let's keep this in mind. I wanted to see which child was the most honest one and would accept that he or she would not be able to grow anything. So let's go back to the options and see which is the opposite of accept or admit. Somebody who's confessing, yes, this is the problem I faced. Right? So out of the options, is it reject, deny, dismiss, disclose, or confess? Yes, correct. The closest antonym to accept or admit is to deny. So when you're, again, apply the same word in that context. When you're denying something, you're saying, so the king is asking all the other kids, how come your plant grew and this guy's plant didn't grow? So they're denying because they have lied to the king, right? They have deceived the king. So they're not accepting that whatever seed you gave is not the right seed. So obviously, the closest in meaning to admit as an antonym is option 2, deny. Yeah. So if you have a doubt or if you're confused, substitute the given word in the context. Think of other words that could mean the same, and then go back and look at your options. It will help you arrive at the closest one, whether it's a synonym or an antonym. Right? Let's move on. Which of the following sentences is true of Pingala's father? So it's a positive, detailed question. Let's look at it. He was a farmer by profession. He was very encouraging towards his son. He was a poor man. So what's the options? Is it only A, only B and C, only B, only C, all A, B and C? What's the answer for the 5th question? Let's go back, right? So in introducing, in one of the first paragraphs, when they were introducing this person, I just wanted to point out to only B. So it says here, Pingala, a poor farmer's son. So we know that he was poor, and we know that his profession was a farmer. And we also know that he was encouraging his son, right? Even though he saw how much his son struggled and worked hard to grow the plant, he still encouraged his son, never mind. You know what? Doesn't matter even if the plant didn't come, you go see the king, even if it's an empty pot, right? So the answer is all 5, right? The next question, 6th one. The king crowned Pingala heir to the kingdom because, what are our options? He enjoyed gardening. He was taken aback by his plant. He was the only child to have admitted the truth. He had the most beautiful and healthy plant. He was in awe of his upbringing. This is an easy one. 6th one. What's the answer? Yeah, this is again easy one. We know the answer, right? For the 5th one, the passage doesn't support that. 2nd and 4th we know is not applicable because there was no plant to begin with. And keep in mind, though Pingala might enjoy gardening, right? It only says that the king enjoyed gardening in the context. And that's not the reason why he crowned Pingala heir to the kingdom. Because he was honest, right? So let's move on. What kind of seeds did the king give to the children? Let's look at options. The finest seeds he had, roasted seeds that would never sprout, vegetable and fruit seeds. Again, this is an easy one. We don't even have to waste time. What's the answer for the 7th one? 7th one? Yes. Roasted seeds that would never sprout. That's the whole plan. That's his strategy, right? To identify the honest kid who could take over his throne. Next question. Which of the following statements is false according to the passage? So we had one positive detail. Now this is a negative detail question. Let's look at our options. Option 1. Pingala was fond of gardening just like the king. The king did not have any children who could take over the kingdom. Pingala took great care of the seed the king gave him. The seeds that the king gave to the children grew into beautiful and healthy plants. The children were given 3 months to complete their assignment. So keep in mind, they're asking what is false, what is not true. So don't get confused. Look at the options. There are 4 options that are true as per the context, and there's 1 option that is not true. What is that option? Option 4, right? We know it's roasted seeds. So, yeah, we're looking at context according to the passage. Let's move on. So why did the king call for all inspection of the plants after 3 months? What was the objective? What was the purpose behind what he did? So 9th one, he wanted to see which plant had the most beautiful flower. He wanted to witness the joy in the children's faces. He wanted to see which plant would be the most useful to him. He wanted to check the children's gardening skills. He wanted to see which child was honest and would admit the truth. Again, this is an easy one. We can just close our eyes and arrive at the answer option. So basically, this was the most easiest passage ever. And all these 10 questions, just by reading it once, you should be able to answer all the questions and get full 9 out of 9. Yeah, there are only 9 questions. So it's option 5. None of the other is correct. Choose the word which is most nearly the same in meaning as the word printed in bold as used in the passage. Okay, so avid is the word. What are our options? Bright, intelligent, enthusiastic, lazy, amateur. Now let's quickly go back to the context and see where does avid come. Maybe that it's a word that you're not familiar with. So let's fall back on the context and see the sentence in which it appears. So first paragraph, third line, reading. The king was an avid gardener, right? So let's look at preceding and following sentence as well, just to make sure we got the meaning. He spent a lot of time tending to his garden, planting the finest flowers, fruit, trees, and vegetables. So it looks like something that he's very passionate about, something that he enjoys a lot. So let's look at our options and see what are the words that are closely in line with the words that we came up with. Somebody who likes what he's doing, somebody who's passionate, somebody who enjoys that. Gardening. Right? So avid, is it bright? Is it intelligent? Is it enthusiastic? Is it lazy or mature? Right. This is an easy one again. Avid, somebody who's enthusiastic, right? When you're enthusiastic about something, you like what you're doing, you enjoy what you're doing, you're passionate about it. Anxious. Anxious again is not a difficult word, right? We understand the meaning of anxious. But just to be on the safer side, right? Let's quickly go back to the context. Where is anxious come? Again, same first paragraph, 7th line, right? It says, let's read the context. The next day, there was a long queue of anxious parents and children outside the palace. So what's happening? So it's almost like a competition, right? The one who grows the biggest, healthiest plant within 3 months will become the prince or the princess. There's so much pressure. It's not an easy job, to kind of rule the kingdom. Correct? So everyone was eager to get a seed and grow the best plant. So just imagine in a situation where you're posed with for the children, it's something very not just exciting on one hand, but also something that they're very apprehensive about, right? So let's go back and look at our options. So the option says depressed, hopeless, carefree, doubtful, nervous. What's the right word? The only reason I'm saying this, it's funny because we might get carried away if you're not too sure of the meaning of the word. If you're absolutely sure, then you can go ahead. You'll only save time. You don't have to go back to the passage and rely on the context. The only reason I'm saying that is, in English, words give different meanings in different contexts. So just to be on the safer side. So this one, pretty easy. For those of them who are finding it challenging, I would rather advise them to fall back on the context. So here we know, it's nervous. They're not depressed, they're not hopeless. Carefree is contextually incorrect word. They're not doubtful, right? They're just nervous. It's like almost taking an exam and to see who's going to come out with flying colors. Finest. This again, you don't have to go back to the passage, right? What are my options? We're looking at synonyms here. So avid, we said it's enthusiastic. Anxious, we said is nervous. Finest should be best, thinnest, ordinary, common, or cheapest. This again, we don't even have to go back to the passage. So when you say finest, fine can also mean very thin. So but if we go back to the context, we know what we're talking about, right? They wore the finest clothes because the day of selecting the right candidate for ruling the kingdom has arrived. So they wore all their finest clothes, which means the best clothes.